My lease is up in 3 months, and my landlord wants to know if I'm renewing, and I can't stop spiraling about everything that's about to change. Not just the apartment, everything. What if I move and lose touch with all my friends? What if I can't find anywhere else affordable? What if this is the end of this whole chapter of my life? And it's not just the lease. My favorite coffee shop is closing next month because they can't afford the rent increase. The bookstore where I spend every Saturday is moving to a different neighborhood. Even my gym is changing ownership and renovating everything. It's like every place that makes me feel stable is disappearing at the same time. But here's what really gets me. I started thinking about how nothing stays the same forever. Like, the three of us won't always be doing this podcast together. People move, circumstances change, relationships evolve. What if someday we just stop meeting? What if this comfortable routine we have just ends without warning? And then I spiraled even further. What if one of us gets sick? What if someone moves away for work? What if we just naturally drift apart like people do? I can't handle the thought that all the good things in my life are temporary and could disappear anytime. So now I'm trying to memorize everything. The way my apartment looks in the morning light, the exact taste of my coffee shop's latte, the sound of us laughing during these recordings. Like, if I can catalog enough details, maybe I can hold on to things even after they're gone.
Emily, you're panicking about your lease ending? I've been waiting for medical test results for 2 weeks now, and every day that passes without a call feels like the silence before terrible news.
What kind of test results?
I found a lump in my breast last month. Probably nothing. Statistically, it's probably just a cyst or fibrous tissue, but I had to get it checked. And now I'm in this horrible limbo where my entire future might be about to change, but I have no control over it. And while I'm waiting, I keep thinking about how quickly everything could shift. One phone call could divide my life into before and after. Before I was a healthy person, worried about normal things. After I'm a cancer patient, worried about survival.
But you don't know that's what the call will be about.
That's exactly the problem. I don't know anything. I'm just suspended in this space between my old life and whatever comes next, and I can't move forward until someone tells me which reality I'm living in. And it's made me realize how much of my sense of security depends on assuming things will stay basically the same. That my body will keep working, that my routines will continue, that the people I care about will still be here tomorrow. But what if they're not? What if this is one of those moments where everything changes and there's nothing I can do to stop it? What if I'm about to lose everything I think of as my life?
You two are worried about leases and medical tests. I just got offered a job in another state, and accepting it would mean leaving everything I know, but turning it down might mean missing my only chance at the career I actually want.
That sounds like a good problem to have.
It's terrible, because either choice means losing something important. If I take the job, I lose my friend group, my familiar places, my support system here. If I don't take it, I lose the opportunity and probably spend years wondering what would have happened.
But at least you get to make a choice. I'm just waiting for test results to tell me what my life is going to be.
But that's what makes it worse. I have to choose which future to lose. And once I decide, there's no going back. The life I don't choose just disappears forever. Plus, I keep thinking about how this decision affects other people. What if taking this job means our friendship group falls apart? What if I'm the catalyst that ends something good because I was selfish about my career?
So we're all facing different types of endings, but they all feel equally terrifying.
And they're all happening at the same time, which makes it feel like everything stable in my life is crumbling simultaneously.
Right? It's not just one thing changing. It's like the whole foundation is shifting, and I don't know what will still be there when everything settles.
And there's nothing we can do to freeze things the way they are right now, when everything still feels okay.
Even though right now is just me waiting for potentially devastating news while you're stressed about moving and Gianna's torn between two futures.
So maybe okay is just the period between knowing changes are coming and actually experiencing them.
That's depressing. Like, we're always either dealing with change or dreading upcoming change.
And the uncertainty is almost worse than bad news, because at least bad news gives you something concrete to respond to.
While uncertainty just leaves you hanging in this space where you can't plan or prepare or even know what you're supposed to be worried about.
So how do you live normally when everything feels temporary and fragile?
And how do you make decisions about the future when you don't know what your circumstances will be?
And how do you enjoy the good things when you're constantly aware that they won't last forever?
These are the questions that keep me up at night, staring at my ceiling and trying to memorize the exact way the streetlight looks through my blinds.
Just in case I never see it again after I move.
Or just in case everything changes so much that even familiar things feel different.
God, we're all disasters right now.
But at least we're disasters together.
For now.
Don't say for now.
Sorry, for an indefinite period that we're choosing not to think about ending.
That's somehow worse.
OKAY, everyone breathe. If you just heard that and you're now panicking about everything in your life being temporary and fragile, let's take a step back before we all spiral into existential dread.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cora. And yes, that was me waiting for potentially life-changing medical results while having a breakdown about how quickly everything can shift from normal to catastrophic.
I'm Gianna, and I just spent 6 minutes agonizing over a career opportunity that could change everything, while simultaneously worrying that my decision might ruin other people's lives too.
And I'm Emily, currently trying to memorize my apartment in case I have to move, which is definitely a normal and healthy response to lease renewal anxiety. So this is What Me Worry, episode 12, where we explore the terror of endings, transitions, and everything being temporary.
The thing about change anxiety is that it takes something that's literally the only constant in life, the fact that things change, and treats it like a personal threat.
Right. Like intellectually, we all know that nothing stays the same forever, but emotionally, we build our sense of security on the assumption that tomorrow will basically look like today.
And when that assumption gets threatened, either by external circumstances or just by suddenly becoming aware of impermanence, it feels like the ground is shifting under your feet.
Which is especially hard when you're facing multiple changes at once, like everything stable is disappearing simultaneously.
Plus, there's this weird pressure to be excited about change and growth, like you're supposed to embrace uncertainty and see transitions as opportunities.
But some changes aren't opportunities, they're just losses. And some uncertainty isn't exciting, it's just scary.
So today we're going to talk about ending anxiety, the fear of things changing, relationships evolving, familiar places disappearing, and routines being disrupted.
We'll explore waiting anxiety, that horrible limbo period when you know change is coming, but you don't know what kind or when.
And we'll dig into decision paralysis around major life changes, when every option means losing something important.
Plus, we'll talk to Abigail from Michigan, who's leaving a long-term relationship and panicking about living alone for the first time, managing everything by herself.
But first, let's acknowledge something important. If you're struggling with change anxiety or fear of endings, you're dealing with something fundamentally human.
Right, humans are pattern-seeking creatures who thrive on predictability and routine. It makes sense that uncertainty and transition would trigger our threat detection systems.
And in a world that changes as quickly as ours does, technology, economics, social structures, even climate, we're all dealing with more uncertainty than our brains evolved to handle.
Plus, we're constantly getting messages that we should be adaptable and resilient and able to pivot, like anxiety about change is a personal failing instead of a normal response to instability.
But here's the thing, while we can't control whether things change, we can work on how we respond to change and uncertainty.
Which doesn't mean forcing yourself to be excited about unwanted transitions or pretending that losses aren't real.
It means finding ways to function and make decisions even when you can't predict or control outcomes.
And learning to hold on to what matters to you while also accepting that the forms those things take might evolve.
Like, friendships can survive geographical distance, but they might look different than they do now.
And careers can develop in unexpected directions that still align with your values, even if they don't follow the exact path you planned.
The challenge is staying open to possibilities while also grieving the specific futures that won't happen.
And tolerating uncertainty without letting it paralyze you or make you avoid all decisions.
Because avoiding change usually isn't actually an option. It just means letting changes happen to you instead of participating in them.
So the goal isn't to eliminate change anxiety, which would be impossible and probably unhealthy.
It's to develop confidence that you can handle whatever transitions come up, even if they're not the ones you would have chosen.
And to remember that adaptation is something humans are actually very good at, even when it doesn't feel that way in the moment.
We've all survived major changes before, even if we don't remember feeling capable at the time.
And most of the time, the anticipatory anxiety about change is worse than the actual experience of adapting to new circumstances.
Although waiting for medical test results is still objectively terrible, no matter how you frame it.
Fair point. Some uncertainties are genuinely harder to sit with than others.
But even then, the waiting period isn't the rest of your life. It's just the space between not knowing and knowing.
Which is temporary, even when it feels eternal.
Let's talk about what happened to me with the apartment situation because I think it represents something bigger than just lease renewal anxiety.
What do you mean?
I think the lease ending triggered this awareness that everything I think of as stable is actually temporary. My apartment, my coffee shop, my routines, even our podcast, none of it is guaranteed to continue.
And once you become conscious of impermanence, it's hard to go back to taking continuity for granted.
Exactly. Like, I used to assume that my favorite places would always be there, that my friend group would stay the same, that the rhythms of my life were permanent fixtures.
But they're not. Everything is constantly changing. We just don't usually notice because most changes happen gradually.
Right. And then something like a lease renewal forces you to confront the fact that your current life setup is a temporary arrangement, not a permanent reality.
Which is terrifying if you're someone who builds their sense of security on predictability and routine.
But here's what I don't understand. Why does awareness of impermanence feel so threatening? Like, change isn't always bad. Some changes are improvements.
I think it's because when you really absorb that everything is temporary, you start catastrophizing about losing the good things without any guarantee that they'll be replaced by equally good things.
Plus, there's this illusion of control that comes with routine. If today looks like yesterday, maybe tomorrow will too, and you can plan accordingly.
But if everything is constantly shifting, then you can't predict or prepare for anything, which makes the future feel completely chaotic.
That makes sense. Like, even if change could lead to better outcomes, the uncertainty itself feels dangerous.
And humans are loss averse. We tend to weigh potential losses more heavily than potential gains. So thinking about change activates our threat detection systems.
So how do you live with the awareness that everything is temporary without becoming paralyzed by it?
Maybe by shifting focus from trying to make things permanent to appreciating them while they exist.
That sounds nice in theory, but it's really hard in practice. Like, when I think about this job opportunity, I can't just appreciate my current life. I'm too busy calculating what I'll lose if I leave.
Same with my apartment situation. Instead of enjoying where I live now, I'm obsessing over all the ways moving could go wrong.
And while I'm waiting for test results, I can't appreciate feeling healthy right now because I'm too worried about potentially not feeling healthy in the future.
So maybe the goal isn't to become zen about impermanence. Maybe it's to function despite being aware of it.
What would that look like?
Making decisions based on what seems right given current information, instead of trying to guarantee specific outcomes.
And accepting that some uncertainty is just part of being alive, not a problem to solve.
But what about the grief aspect? Like, even if new things turn out to be good, you're still losing the old things.
I think that's legitimate. You can be sad about endings even when you're excited about beginnings.
Right. It's not either or. You can simultaneously appreciate what you have, grieve what you're losing, and be curious about what's coming next.
That sounds emotionally exhausting.
It is emotionally exhausting. But trying to freeze everything in place is also exhausting, and it doesn't actually work.
Plus, some of the things we're afraid of losing might evolve rather than disappear completely.
What do you mean?
Like, if I take this job, my friendships here won't vanish, they'll just change form. We might text more and see each other less, but the relationships themselves could continue.
And if you move apartments, you'll lose your current view and daily routines, but you'll develop new ones that might be equally satisfying.
So it's not always about total loss. Sometimes it's about transformation.
Right. And transformation is still scary because you don't know what the new version will look like, but it's different from complete ending.
Although sometimes things do completely end, and that's scary too.
True, some changes really are permanent losses without direct replacements.
But even then, the capacity to care about people and places and experiences continues, even if the specific objects of that care change.
That's actually comforting. Like, even if I lose specific things I value, I won't lose the ability to value things.
And even if certain chapters of life end, the story continues.
Which doesn't make endings less sad, but it does make them less like total catastrophes.
Art, sad and natural and part of the human experience, instead of evidence that everything is falling apart.
I can work with that framing. Change as natural process instead of personal crisis.
And uncertainty as normal condition instead of temporary problem to solve.
Although I'm still going to be anxious about my lease renewal.
And I'm still going to be stressed while waiting for medical results.
And I'm still going to agonize over this job decision.
But maybe we can be anxious while also accepting that anxiety doesn't mean we're handling things wrong.
Let's talk about this medical waiting period, because I think there's something uniquely torturous about knowing that important information exists, but you can't access it yet.
Like someone in a lab somewhere knows your test results, but you have to just exist in uncertainty until they decide to call you?
Exactly. The information that could completely change my life perspective already exists. It's just being withheld from me for administrative reasons.
That's different from normal uncertainty, where nobody knows what's going to happen. This is manufactured uncertainty.
Right. And I keep calculating how long it's been since the test, wondering if longer wait times mean worse news, checking my phone constantly in case I missed a call.
Do longer wait times actually correlate with worse results?
I have no idea. That's the problem. I'm trying to interpret the timing as data, but I don't know what any of it means.
And meanwhile, you're stuck in this limbo where you can't fully plan for either outcome because you don't know which reality you're living in.
Exactly. Like, should I be researching oncologists or should I be planning normal activities for next month? I don't know what kind of preparation makes sense.
So you're probably doing both and neither, which is exhausting.
I'm Googling cancer survival rates while also making vacation plans, which feels completely surreal.
That sounds like how I'm handling this job decision, actually. I'm researching apartments in the new city while also making commitments here, like I'm living in parallel universes.
Because you have to choose between futures, but you don't know enough about either one to choose confidently.
Right. I know what my life looks like now, but I don't know what it would look like there. And once I decide, the path I don't choose disappears forever.
At least you get to make a choice. I just have to wait for biology and lab technicians to determine my options.
But choice paralysis might be worse than waiting for external results. Like, if your test comes back fine, you'll feel relief. If my decision turns out wrong, I'll blame myself forever.
So you're both stuck, just in different types of uncertainty.
And both types are designed to make you question every assumption about how life works.
What do you mean?
Like, I used to assume that my body was basically reliable and that medical scares happened to other people. Now I'm realizing that health can change instantly and unpredictably.
And I used to assume that if you work hard and make reasonable decisions, your career will progress in a logical way. But this opportunity came out of nowhere and forces me to choose between security and possibility.
So you're both having to revise your basic beliefs about how the world works while also making important decisions.
Which is why waiting feels so destabilizing. It's not just about getting specific information. It's about learning whether your fundamental assumptions about life are correct.
And decision paralysis isn't just about choosing between options. It's about accepting responsibility for determining your own future.
But here's what I don't understand. How do you function day to day when you're carrying around this level of uncertainty?
Honestly, badly. I'm distracted all the time. I can't concentrate on work. I'm snappy with people because I'm constantly anxious.
Same. I'm avoiding the decision by researching it obsessively, which means I'm thinking about it constantly, but not actually moving forward.
So uncertainty doesn't just delay resolution, it degrades your quality of life while you're waiting.
Right? And the longer it takes, the more exhausted you get from carrying the anxiety.
Plus, other people expect you to function normally, so you have to pretend you're not consumed by this huge question mark.
What helps, even temporarily?
Setting specific times to check my phone instead of checking it constantly, and reminding myself that the test results already exist, so my anxiety doesn't change them.
I've been trying to set a decision deadline for myself, so the research phase has to end eventually.
And accepting that there's no perfect choice, just different trade-offs?
That's what I'm working toward. Like, instead of trying to make the objectively right decision, maybe I can make a decision I can live with.
And instead of trying to control the test results with my anxiety level, maybe I can just wait without making it mean anything about my worth or future.
That sounds incredibly hard.
It is incredibly hard, but it's also the only option that doesn't involve making myself miserable while waiting.
And it's good practice for all the other times in life when you have to function despite uncertainty.
Which is probably most of the time, if we're being honest.
Right? This is just a more concentrated version of the normal human condition.
Uncertainty with stakes instead of just uncertainty with routine.
But maybe the skills are transferable. Learning to wait for medical results might help with smaller uncertainties too.
Or learning to make career decisions with incomplete information might help with day-to-day choice anxiety.
As long as we survive our current situations first.
We will. Statistically, we probably will.
Probably being the best certainty we're going to get.
I can work with, probably.
Time for our guest segment, where we talk to someone dealing with their own transition anxiety. Today, we're talking to Abigail from Michigan. Abigail, thanks for calling in.
Hi, everyone. So my situation is that I'm leaving a 7-year relationship and moving out on my own for the first time, and I'm completely overwhelmed by how much is about to change all at once.
That sounds like a huge transition. What specifically feels most overwhelming about it?
Everything, honestly. I've never lived alone before. I went from my parents' house to living with roommates to living with my partner, and now I have to figure out how to manage everything by myself.
What kinds of things are you worried about managing?
All the practical stuff. I don't have a car because we shared one, so now I need to figure out transportation. I've never set up utilities or dealt with landlords alone. I don't even know how much money I'll need for groceries when I'm only feeding myself.
So you're not just ending a relationship, you're having to build an entirely new life infrastructure.
Exactly. And I keep spiraling about, what if I can't handle it? What if I'm one of those people who just can't function independently? What if I made a huge mistake leaving?
Have you been unhappy in the relationship, or are you leaving for other reasons?
No, I was really unhappy. The relationship needed to end, but knowing something is right doesn't make it less scary.
That's such an important distinction. You can make the right decision and still be terrified about the consequences.
Yes. And everyone keeps telling me I should be excited about my independence and freedom, but mostly I just feel panicked about all the responsibilities.
It sounds like you're grieving the security of the relationship even though you didn't want to stay in it.
That's exactly it. Like, I'm sad about losing the familiarity and shared responsibilities, even though I'm relieved to be out of an unhappy situation.
That makes complete sense. You can simultaneously want something and be scared of it.
What do you think would help you feel more prepared for living alone?
I don't know. Maybe if I could practice some of the stuff beforehand, but I feel like I'm supposed to figure it all out instantly.
Who says you have to figure it all out instantly? Most people learn independent living skills gradually over time.
I guess I'm comparing myself to people who seem effortlessly competent at adult life and assuming they've always been that way.
But they probably develop those skills through trial and error, not by being naturally gifted at grocery budgeting and utility management.
Right. And most adult skills are actually pretty learnable if you give yourself permission to be bad at them initially.
That helps. Like, I don't have to be immediately good at living alone. I just have to be willing to learn.
And you could start with the practical stuff. Research car sharing options, look up how to set up utilities, maybe ask friends who live alone what their monthly expenses look like.
Having concrete information might help with some of the overwhelm about the unknown.
Yeah, I think part of my panic is that I'm imagining worst case scenarios because I don't know what normal scenarios look like.
And remember, you're not starting from zero. You have life skills and problem-solving abilities, even if you haven't used them in an independent living context.
That's true. I can cook and clean and manage my work responsibilities. I just haven't done those things without a partner.
So it's more about adapting existing skills to a new situation than learning everything from scratch.
That feels much more manageable. Thank you all for helping me reframe this.
You've got this, Abigail. Change is hard even when it's the right choice.
All right, everyone, homework time. This week we're doing the Change Tolerance Challenge.
Pick one transition or ending you're currently facing, big or small, and practice sitting with the uncertainty without trying to control the outcome.
That might mean waiting for information without constantly checking for updates, or making a decision with incomplete information instead of researching indefinitely.
The goal isn't to become comfortable with uncertainty, which might be impossible. It's to prove to yourself that you can function despite uncertainty.
And practice grieving what you're losing while also staying open to what you might gain, even if you don't know what that is yet.
Remember, adaptation is something humans are actually very good at, even when it doesn't feel that way during transitions.
And most endings aren't really endings, they're transformations that lead to new beginnings, even if you can't see what those look like yet.
Thanks for listening to What Me Worry. I'm Gianna.
I'm Cora.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Abigail, and I'm going to research car sharing options this week.
We believe in you, Abigail.
This was an AI scripted voice drama for entertainment and informational purposes only. If you're in crisis or need professional help, please call 988 or contact your local emergency services.
Take care of yourselves out there.
And remember, change is the only constant, but that doesn't make it easy.
Here's hoping we'll all get to worry together again soon.
That's not really how hoping works, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Some things are worth worrying about keeping.